The protein guidelines you've been following are wrong. Not slightly off, wrong. Scientists just said most people need way more protein than the official recommendations have been telling us for decades. And this isn't some random influencer opinion. This is coming from researchers re-examining the actual data behind the guidelines we've all been using. Let me show you what changed, why it changed, and what you should actually be eating starting today. Here's the background you need first. The RDA, the recommended dietary allowance for protein, has been 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight for decades. For a 150-pound person, that's about 54 grams a day. That number has shaped everything. Nutrition labels, dietary guidelines, what your doctor tells you, what gets printed in textbooks. But here's what most people don't know about that number. It wasn't designed to tell you the amount of protein for optimal health. It was designed to find the minimum amount needed to prevent deficiency in the average sedentary adult. Minimum, not optimal, not even adequate for most active people. Think about it like this. Imagine a fuel gauge that was calibrated decades ago to tell you the bare minimum gas needed to not get stranded on the side of the road. That's not the same as the amount you'd want for a smooth, reliable drive. That's the RDA. It's the don't get stranded number, not the run well number. And now, new analysis is showing that even that minimum number underestimates what a lot of people actually need. So what's the new thinking? Researchers are pointing to growing evidence that protein needs were measured using outdated methods that don't reflect how protein actually gets used in the body, especially for muscle maintenance, immune function, and aging. The original studies used something called nitrogen balance testing. Basically, researchers measured nitrogen going in through food and nitrogen going out through waste, and used that math to estimate protein needs. The problem is, this method was done mostly on young, healthy, sedentary men in short-term studies. It never accounted for muscle building, illness recovery, aging, or long-term health outcomes. It just measured the bare minimum to avoid your body breaking down its own tissue for nitrogen. When you adjust for those factors, the numbers shift upward significantly. We're talking about closer to 1.2 to 2.0 grams per kilogram for a lot of the population, not just athletes. That's more than double the old RDA for some people, and certain groups need to pay even closer attention to this. Older adults. As you age, your body becomes less efficient at using protein to build and maintain muscle. This is called anabolic resistance. It means you need more protein just to get the same muscle-preserving effect you'd get at a younger age. Picture two grandparents. One eats a small bowl of cereal for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, and rice with vegetables for dinner. Maybe 45 grams of protein total for the day. The other has eggs in the morning, a chicken salad at lunch, and fish with lentils at night. Closer to 100 grams. 5 years down the road, the second one is far more likely to still be able to get up from a chair without help, carry groceries, and recover quickly if they get sick. That difference often comes down to muscle mass. And muscle mass depends heavily on protein intake. This matters more than people realize, because muscle loss with age isn't just about looking strong. It's directly tied to fall risk, hospital recovery times, and even how long someone lives independently before needing assisted care. Protein is quietly one of the biggest levers for aging well, and most people have no idea their intake might be half of what they actually need. People losing weight. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body is more likely to break down muscle for energy if you're not eating enough protein. Higher protein intake protects your muscle while you lose fat. Imagine someone cutting calories to lose 20 pounds but barely eating any protein. They might hit their goal weight on the scale, but a good portion of what they lost was muscle, not fat. They end up lighter, but softer, weaker, and with a slower metabolism than before. Compare that to someone who cuts the same calories but prioritizes protein at every meal. They lose roughly the same weight, but most of it comes from fat, and they keep the muscle that keeps their metabolism running. This is actually one of the most common reasons people regain weight after a diet. They lose muscle along with the fat, their metabolism drops, and a few months later they're eating the same amount of food they used to maintain their weight, except now their body needs less of it. Protein is one of the simplest ways to prevent that trap. Anyone dealing with illness, recovery, or high stress, protein needs go up when your body is repairing itself, whether that's from surgery, injury, or even just chronic stress. So here's the real picture. There's a sweet spot. Too little protein, and you're not preserving muscle, you're not recovering well, you're not supporting your immune system properly. Too much, and you're just eating extra without added benefit. That sweet spot for most healthy active adults sits around 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. For older adults or anyone in a calorie deficit, it can push closer to 1.6 to 2.0. For that same 150-pound person, that's roughly 80 to 135 grams a day, depending on your activity level and age. Not 54, not 300, somewhere in between. Now, you might be wondering, what does that actually look like on a plate? Because grams on a page don't mean much until you can picture the food. 3 eggs in the morning gets you about 18 grams. A cup of Greek yogurt adds another 20. A chicken breast at lunch is around 35 grams. A cup of cooked lentils at dinner adds 18 more, and a piece of fish brings you up another 30. Add that up across a full day and you're already well past 100 grams without needing a single protein shake or supplement. The point is, hitting this number isn't about eating mountains of meat or living off powder. It's about making sure protein shows up at every meal instead of being an afterthought tacked onto dinner. So what do you actually do with this? First, do the simple math. Take your weight in pounds, divide by 2.2 to get kilograms, then multiply by 1.2 to 1.6 for a solid everyday target. Second, spread it out. Your body uses protein more efficiently when it's spread across 3 or 4 meals instead of loaded into one. Aim for 25 to 40 grams per meal. Third, prioritize quality sources. Eggs, fish, chicken, Greek yogurt, beans, lentils, tofu. Whole food protein comes with other nutrients your body needs too. Fourth, if you're over 50, or if you're actively trying to lose fat, lean toward the higher end of that range, not the lower end. Here's the bigger lesson in all of this. Nutrition guidelines aren't carved in stone. They get revised as the science improves. And right now, protein recommendations are in the middle of one of those revisions. That doesn't mean ignore guidelines altogether. It means understand that the RDA was never meant to be your optimal target. It was the bare minimum to avoid deficiency, set decades ago, using outdated assumptions. Stop under-eating protein because an old number on a label told you that was enough. And stop overeating it because the internet told you more is always better. Find the actual sweet spot for your body, your age, and your goals. If this was useful, subscribe. I track new research as it comes out and update you when the science shifts. Drop a comment. Were you surprised by how outdated that old protein number actually is? See you in the next one.